Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Everton Motor Racing Podcast with episode 81. I'm here with Lauren. Hello, Lauren.
Hello.
Hello. Cameron and Jacob could not make it because they're waste men. It's just us two, but we've got a special guest. First guest in a little while. It is the FS3 Kawasaki British Superbike rider, Max Cook. Hello, Max.
Hello everybody.
Hello, welcome on.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I bet that feels good.
Yeah. It does sound good, actually. It does sound very good. So, yeah.
Got a nice ring to it. The FS3 Kawasaki British Superbike rider. Sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you put it that way.
That's right. Yeah, it takes some time to get used to, I think. But yes, it's a nice thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was announced like last week, wasn't it? But how long have you actually known about this little move?
So, yeah, I'll give you a bit more story. So I knew that when Rory left, I would go straight in. But because when Rory announced his departure, obviously so many people got in contact with FS3, and then there was like a huge list, and there were some big names on that list. I don't know if I can say them, but you know, some big names on the list. So obviously
they. Go
on.
Yeah. Go on. Give us one or two.
Yes.
Don't say anything that'll get you in trouble. Don't get yourself in trouble.
See, now I don't know if I was meant to say that. If I was meant to see the list, I was just in the workshop, and I seen the list on the workshop on the table.
Oh, okay. I mean, if someone leaves it out, then
yeah, it's not secret if it's laid right in front of you, is it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I can say it.
Okay, yeah, don't say if you can't. Don't say if you can't.
Know. I've only just got the job. I don't want to lose it straight away. Yeah. We'll do it from a year from now, and I'll know where I stand. I know what I can get away with. So.
Yeah. Don't put the blame on us either. This has nothing to do with us. So keep yourself clean here.
Yeah. It's we're too short into the podcast to ask me in half an hour. Then we'll spill the beans. Anyway, there were a massive hold up, so I actually didn't find out until probably early November. So I've probably known about a month, and then it was the longest 3 weeks ever, because I had to tell the people that I'm with, but it was so difficult to not tell anyone, because everyone's asking, what are you doing next year? Because they know that I had to move up. Obviously, being in stock 6, top 3, you've got to move up. So everyone was asking, literally everywhere I went, what are you doing next year? So, I had a bit of fun with it after I got bored, saying I was doing Moto America and doing French Championship. But yeah, so, I winded people up. But yeah, I'm happy it's out now.
Yeah, it's a good move. It's a crazy move, actually. Especially because you don't see too many riders jumping from stock 6 all the way to the Premier Superbike class. Obviously, Ryan Vickers is probably the only guy recently I can think of who's done it. Because obviously they normally will go then to Super Sport, I don't think who the champion was last year, but like Zach Corduroy, for example, went into Super Sport and things like that. So it's a massive jump, but I guess if it helps to slingshot your career, then it can only be good for you.
Well, I know it's a huge jump, and everyone says it's a huge jump. But the only 2 riders I know that have done it is Ryan Vickers and Storm Stacey. And to be fair, they've done a decent job, really. They haven't done badly at all, either of them. I know Ryan, he's thrown it down the road a few times, and it is quite sad, that he's been slated for it, really. When it got announced and that he got Brad Ray's ride, and I've seen the comments, and they're horrible, really. So, because I do think he's a good rider, because he's gone from the CB500, then dominated stock 6, straight to Superbike, and he got a front row in his first year, and that's talent, really. 3-4 years, and he's there at the front. So,
because he did well. Even look back at 2021 when he was with Lee Hardy Racing, and he was in top 5 for most of the races, but he obviously had a trouble with crashing, then he moved to FHO, didn't work out. So to see him now on the championship winning bike proves that actually no, a stock 6.2 British Superbike can be done, and it can be done well.
Yeah, and also I like the trouble is the people that know, they probably thought my move. The people who know where I've come from and have heard of me for a long time, going from Red Bull Rookie Junior World Championship to a junior British class, probably I shouldn't have been in it. It's like it was like that. I probably should have gone to Super Sport. Because I'm a lot more experienced than most of the people in the class. So to be fair, this year I did have to win, because if I didn't win, it'd be, why didn't you win? So it would, I've got so much experience and sort of pedigree behind me that I think, I could make this Superbike move work.
Yeah, I think given your career and what you've done previously, obviously when you've had podiums in the Red Bull Rookies, for example, and then your absolute destruction of the field this year with a podium or second place in every race you finished, and like the way your career's gone, it makes sense because your career has very much mimicked Rory Skinner's career progression. Obviously, you had the crossover where Rory went back from Rookies and Junior World Championship into the British Talent Cup, whereas then you went up and then kind of swapped places with Rory, and then you went Junior World Championship and Rookies, and he went to the British Super Sport. But it just shows that the level's there, and if Rory could do it, you can do it, definitely. So
that's what I think. It's just that's literally what I've been saying. I don't know if you've seen any articles, but that's sort of my side of the argument. Is I'm in the same position as Rory, just 2 years back, but because of money and things, I had to do my 2 years in stock, whereas I probably should have done it in Super Sport.
Yeah, I think there's so many people as well that think that things have to go in such a progression. Like everyone talks, you have to do it this way, or else you're doing it wrong. Where that's just not the case. So do you think going through all the different classes the way that you did, you've probably prepared yourself more by doing things differently? Do you think?
Definitely. I think most of the choices were out of my control, really, in recent years anyway. But I'm happy. I've just everything, and it's paid off now. That's it for me. And a lot of people are like, yeah, it's a massive jump, too big, you won't make it work. But then they don't really know where I've come from either. They just think I'm a normal stock 6 rider.
Yeah.
You're not, because you're probably, I'm just going to check the grid again quickly, that championship. I think off the top of my head and looking through it, I could probably back it up and say that you're probably the only guy or girl on that grid to race in Europe against obviously the top talent in Europe and the Red Bull Rookies. Looking through that list, I can't think of any names that come out to me as already doing it. You've raced against, Pedro Acosta, for example. You've raced against some of the best riders in the world. Obviously, you had both the on-shoes and the rookies, Yamanaka, Sean Dillon Kelly, a lot of the guys who are now, in the World Championship, even in 2020, you had Rueda, Salvador, Guevara, and nobody on that grid with you there has the same experience of you. If it was a random guy who hadn't done the things you'd done, maybe there'd be an argument for it. But given the way your career's gone up to here, you're probably the most experienced rider on that grid and probably the most deserving of a Superbike ride from that grid, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Cheers, Dylan. I mean, you're the facts guy. Yeah, you know more than me. But when you put a bit like that, it is true, isn't it? You do forget, because I don't really see him as bloody hell, I race with Pedro. You know what I mean? It's a big thing looking at it now, but at the time they're your competition. They don't really think of it like that.
Guys, aren't they?
But at the time that you were racing them, they were just the same as you as well. They were in your position. They hadn't gone on and won championships. So, what's to say that your progression isn't going to work out the same way as theirs? You were racing together. Yeah.
I looked at a timesheet from Portimao earlier this year because I really wanted to do a wild card at CEV Moto2. And I looked at a timesheet from 2 years ago. And I was like, bloody hell, everyone in this grid are like somewhere in World Championship now. And I think that is crazy. And I was like 0.8 off the win, and I got the fastest lap, and like 0.8, half a second off Pedro Acosta. And you think, Lermanet, like what it could have come to if it weren't for COVID.
Yeah, that's it. COVID's everyone.
Yeah.
Love it, didn't they?
Take time.
Yeah, massively. Before we properly dig into the podcast, I always ask every rider that comes on one question, and it's normally, I did change it recently. So I'm not sure if you can contractually say any other bike outside of a Kawasaki, but my question is, if you could ride any bike on any track in the world, what would it be and why?
Well, I think I'd want to ride a current Ducati MotoGP bike around Phillip Island, to be honest.
Ooh. Yes.
Yeah. Do you like that?
Choice.
Yeah?
Oh yeah.
I was taking a drink and just nodding my head furiously. I was like, yes.
Yeah. That's,
good decision.
That's a good choice. Yeah, because you have to get like a few like random ones in there, but yeah, that'd be good. Or maybe even like an older one, without the wing, so you can really like slide it around the stone corner and all that.
Yeah, I'd go for one of Valentino Rossi's old bikes
like
if it was me.
Or something like that, yeah.
Something old school. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but Ducati around Phillip Island, solid.
Yeah.
So now I normally as well we'll wind it all the way back to when you first started out, when your career first begun. So how is it that you got into racing in the first place, and then what kept you racing up until now as your career?
So my granddad was European Rallycross champion back in the day. He bought me a mini motor for my second birthday. And my mum and dad aren't into racing, but it was just on the telly. Like, they're not from racing back. Only my granddad. My mum and dad weren't impressed, so it was in the garage for like 4 years. But my dad had a motorbike, and as soon as I could reach the foot pegs, we used to go on rides together. And round where I live in Swindon, there's M4 karting. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's like an indoor go-kart hangar. So anyway, we actually went there originally to watch the planes because my dad was in the air cadets, but then we could hear the mini motors going around. So me and dad went in there to have a look, and we seen them all the mini motors. It was like, all right, we found a place to ride it. So the Sunday after, we got it going, and then I went there every Sunday, and then we made friends. Charlie Nesbitt was like my best friend, and my dad was really good friends with his dad Paul. And then that's what kept me in racing, because at the time he was already in Fab on like a Metro kit. So Paul was like, "Yeah, come on, Adam," which is my dad. We'll go racing on the weekend. So the next year after, I went to Fab, and then that was it. Just snowballed into what it is now.
Yeah, because then you did obviously the Fab, then you did like junior pit bike. I've got your entire career here. The Aprilia Super Teen, stuff like that. You just kind of kept going through, obviously, the ranks, didn't you? Basically, all the way through to like the British Talent Cup.
Well, it got addictive, really, because when I started winning, because to be fair, I wasn't very good originally. It took me a few years to get going. But yeah, because my dad just wanted it for something, dad and lad, thing to do, which is what it is now, But it just snowballed because I started winning, and my dad liked it too. He got hooked, and he wanted the best opportunity for me, really. So it was all my dad's doing, to be honest, and that's what it is now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because it kind of does snowball a bit. It's like the whole football dad thing in it, where like dad brings his son to the football games and all that, and then obviously with your case it was racing. But then when was it that you realised that actually no, this could be actually more than a hobby and could actually be like my career, my job?
I think my mindset has always been this will be my life. I think even when I was riding mini motos, that's always been the drive, you see, and I think that's helped quite a bit because it puts a different side of pressure onto your riding and whatever in your mindset. So I think the main turning point was Super Teens, where it was the first year on the big tracks, and I started winning, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm actually, I could do quite well here. So, and that's where obviously I got older. You start changing, like, don't you? Like physically, your body's growing, everything. And yeah, that Super Teen year were one of the biggest turning points, I think, for me.
Yeah, because I've just read that you're the first ever rider in the Super Teen 16-year history to achieve pole and a win in your first race as a rookie. I think you're the first youngest rider to ever win the championship, which you did as a rookie as well.
Yeah. So that was totally unexpected, that first win, That was totally on the way. I remember it now. On the way there, my dad was like, "Yeah, just top 10, have fun, whatever. It's your first one." And then I got pole, and then like my dad didn't know it at the time because it's club racing. I can't remember if they were live timing. But anyway, it was on the tannoy. Max Cook pole position, and then like my mum heard it. I think she was like, "You got first." Like I was like, "What, really?" I couldn't believe it. To be fair, and then. Like it wasn't like, I don't know, at the time it wasn't anything crazy what I was doing on the track. And then I just ended up like winning it. And I thought, all right, well, this is good. This is great. So yeah, and then it took off really.
Yeah, it just went from there, yeah. And then you eventually obviously went up to they opened up like the British Talent Cup in 2018, didn't they? And you also raced in the Red Bull Rookies in 2018. What was that like? Because that would have been like the first time you ever raced abroad against some obviously top talent, really. Because obviously the Red Bull Rookies, you're a rookie that year, and suddenly you've gone from like British tracks racing against British riders to then suddenly being slingshot onto the world stage against some top talent like Carlos Tatai, Salach, Artie Gas, both the Onshu twins, Yamanaka, Sean De Kelly, some big names, world champions like Adrian Huertas I've just spotted. What was that like? That must have been like insane for you.
It was crazy. I was actually, I think I was one of the last Brits to get in the selection event instead of being just promoted. I think even Scott was promoted. So I was one of the last people to get the name called at the end of the selection event. So that was like unreal. Like that was one of times I actually see my dad in tears. Like he couldn't believe it either. But yeah, the first test is Jerez for 4 days, and I've just come back from round 1 of the British Talent Cup, where it got rained off because it was too cold, and Alberto Puig was wrapped up in like a million layers, and he just had his eyes showing. There's got to be a photo of that somewhere.
I can find it.
But anyway, the race got cancelled because it were like snowing. And then I arrived late to the test. I only missed the media day. But that's going off here. On the MotoGP 18 game, they put a really like ugly picture of me because the lighting's all different to everyone else's. And that's why, because I arrived late. So I had my picture taken in the pit lane, and they done me dirty. They done me dirty on the video game. So
that's what happens when you don't show up for picture day. I don't know what you wanted them to do about that one.
But it wasn't my fault. It was Dorna who done the calendar here. That was not my fault.
Yeah, call them out here and now. You're like, sort this out. Years down the line.
You can imagine me waiting up until midnight, pre-ordered it, waiting up all this time, and then it releases, and I just see me and I'm there at the telly, and I couldn't believe it.
You're like, what the hell?
Dreams come true, but not when that photo's used.
But anyway, going back to the test, I remember obviously being fresh from Talent Cup, 4 days of riding, and then they put the timings on for the last day, or like the second to last day. And anyway, I was dead last. I remember reading my names through the list, starting at the top, going down, like where am I? Where am I? And I was stone last. And that was a big turning point again, thinking, I need to up my game here because, this isn't good. But it just shows the level of competition when it's so high in Spain and the rest of the world. They just ride totally different as well. The riding style is different. They're just a lot more aggressive. They're quick. As soon as they're out of pit lane, the first lap is fast. They don't warm up to it. It's just bang. There you are. So it's
straight on it.
It was a huge learning curve for me the first year. And I definitely worked hard, that 2018 year. But yeah, and then I just got used to it. I quickly got used to it. But you got to, or else you sink.
Yeah, more sink, isn't it?
Literally. So, and then the second year was way better, really, way better. I just got too big. I just grew, and then it didn't go so well. But it was great year, great experience, rookies.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like you said, you had to adapt, and I think riding against, we've had obviously other riders on the podcast who have done it, like Sean Della Kelly when he came on. He said that the first time he went down the straight at a ref, he started to brake, and then he was started braking, and Wolf Fernandez came past him, still fully tucked in, and braked 50 meters ahead of him, and Sean was like, "What the hell?" kind of thing, but then Sean as well managed to hit that level as well where he could fight, for a top 10 in the Rebel rookies. I think you learn a lot faster, like we've seen with riders like Joshua Watley this year in the Meta 3 World Championship. You have to reach that level, but you reach it really fast. Another example would be Lorenzo Fellon, who wasn't ready, but then arrived quick. What was anything specifically you needed to do to actually arrive that fast and actually get to that level that they are on? Or was it literally just a case of following them and then just tweaking things as you go and just your brain going, okay, do that instead kind of thing?
Literally, it was just time. Like when you follow them, you think, well, if they can do it, why can't I do it? And it's just, they just brake harder later. They just get on the gas, like where your brain originally thinks no, but they're just on it. They're on it straight away. The rider coach, Danny Ribalta, as well, he's really, really good. And he takes videos and stuff, really good. But he helped me a lot. But it is that you have to be a quick learner or else you're nowhere. But I think it comes with it, really. You need someone to set the benchmark. Like Rory Skinner set the benchmark for me in the Talent Cup in 2018. So at first I was obviously nervous, when it got announced because he was a latecomer. But then when he was there on the track, it was surprising how easy you could sort of hang on to him and just learn off him. I think so. If you got a benchmark there, it's, you're more than capable of just learning off him straight away.
Yeah, because it's intriguing actually, because that was a weird year in Rory's career kind of thing, because he obviously, the Racing Steps Foundation pulled all their sponsorship for that year from John and from Rory. Rory then wasn't, I think he'd done already 3 years in the rookies, so he couldn't do the rookies again. Couldn't do the Junior World Championship, so Dorna placed him in the British Talent Cup quite late on against you guys. I think, again, like you said, to maybe show you guys the benchmark of what you need to get at. Because at that point, it was like a Dorna Rule Championship, wasn't it? You all had the same bike, you all had the same levers, helmets, and things like that. Very much like the rookies and the Age of Talent Cup. And yeah, it was intriguing to see that actually you guys could obviously battle with, like you battled Rory for the title, didn't you, that year, I believe? And it went down to Valencia.
Yeah, and I beat him as well, like once or twice.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're a strange year for Rory. And then, but obviously it were a great year for me, really. Just get to learn off him and, demonstrate what I learned to the rookies and then have that experience then on. But I think, I obviously look up to Rory so much. When I was a kid in my first year on a mini motor, he were there on a 50 and a 70 just wiping the floor with everybody. So I think he's always on to set the pace. Him and Charlie Nesbitt were the ones to set the pace. And that's always been like inspiration. I want to be like him. I want to be like, and to think now I'm racing with him, it was quite cool, really. That was like the first encounter of like not like starstruck celebrity, but it's like the similar thing, really. Like, it's like you kind of like your hero kind of thing, and you're there with them.
Yeah, and like you're battling against him, and it's kind of quite fitting now that you're kind of stepping into his boots next year, and obviously replacing him in the FS3 squad as well. Obviously, because he's up onto Moto2 next year. And I think for you as a rider, does that motivate you a bit to see that Rory, obviously, I know that you're fully concentrated on BSB at the moment, but like, does that motivate you that maybe in a few years you can see yourself going to Moto2 as well? Because we touched on earlier, like there is no defined set route into, say, Grand Prix riding, and Rory proved you can do it a bit weird way. Jake Dixon has done it. Augusto Fernandez won the championship after coming through a obscenely strange way. So does that motivate you to know that actually you can do that?
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm 19. I like to think I've still got a lot of time.
Oh yeah.
You've loads of time.
I just think whatever opportunity comes, you've got to think, am I best to take it at that time? And for Rory, it came about at the right time. And it's gone great, and I'm so happy for him because he should have been in Moto3 in 2018, really. So that's really well deserved, obviously. And if anything comes like that, we'll have to see it at the time. But BSB is obviously great, and you can make great sort of great life, and the racing's
money.
good, money. But it is good. But then 10-year-old me wants to be world champion. I do have that drive, and it's just if anything comes about, then we'll just have to see at the time.
Yeah, and I think out of all the teams, I think you're probably in the right team to do it. The FS3 team, obviously the FS3 has supported you for quite a few years now, I believe. And so that squad, they're quite ready to prepare you. They prepared Rory, for example. They helped Danny Buchan a few years ago. The riders, they're very much about, promoting riders from within. Like Lee Jackson came from their, obviously, Stock 1000 squad as well. And they even said on their press release when Rory went up to Moto2 that their goal is to promote young riders like yourself. And do you feel that being in that squad is definitely an advantage over, say, another squad?
Yeah, hugely. I think Nigel's the one who's backed me for so long. Because it's a joint partnership. They've got Nigel and Darren. And FS3 is like their initials, combined.
Okay.
So, you got Darren Fry, which is the F, and Nigel Snook, so FS, and then 3's Darren's racing. So that's a little
nice.
fact there, little fact.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a joint partnership, but it was Nigel really who had a big interest. He's like the team owner, if you like, and Darren's like the team manager. But yeah, Nigel's the one backing me, and he knows my drive to be in MotoGP. He's backed me through rookies, obviously Talent Cup, and I think he even said, if Johnny Ray retires, there could be something there. So whatever happens, Nigel knows where I sort of want to be, where my dream is. So I think it's very exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a good place to be in. I think obviously the fact that you've already got experience racing in Europe definitely helps you. When you did return to England from Europe, what was that like coming back, knowing what you know and knowing how to race against guys and racing against the Spaniards, for example, who are obviously they're a lot harder to race against. They're a bit more aggressive and things like that. How did you find that return to England? Like, what was that like for you? Were you overly aggressive on everyone, or do you feel that it helped you actually to win races because you were able to outride the other riders by being a bit more aggressive?
So over winter was, like, as you say, that was my expectation: be aggressive, wipe the floor of everyone, and win it in the first year. But that wasn't the case. It was the totally opposite. Actually, when I got the first few tests out of the way, the Moto 3 to a 600 was the biggest jump in bike I've ever done. We're just going from a Moto 3, 80 kilo race bike to a massive, I don't know, just a big sort of lump. It feels like a tank when you compare the two. With so much power, and when you're racing them at like Alton Park, they were horrible to start with. Honestly, having this big lump, and I had a big crash at Alton Park official test, where I hit a neutral, and then before you know it, I was in the wall. And obviously, when you're racing at Valencia, if you hit a neutral, you just run around the concrete and come back. But then I did it then, and I'm in the wall, and my bike's broken, and I've got to spend my money to fix it. And that was the toughest year from then on, was building up, because I had to look after the bike. FS3, they got me the bike, but I had to run it, and my dad was looking after my brother. So I didn't have much help there really. But I had to learn quite fast the mechanics of a bike and looking after a race bike, which was very stressful on a race weekend when you've got to race it and think, have I tightened up those brake calipers?
Yeah.
And I've not got enough money in the bank to throw it down the road. And if I did throw it down the road, I don't know how to fix it. So, it was a tough year, but that, looking back, that's why I did so well this year, because I was in a team. I sussed out the 600. I've sussed out the British tracks, and now I can just appreciate just to ride at the weekend and not do anything else.
Yeah, you just get on the bike, ride it, and that's it.
That's the scariest thought ever, having to put your own bike together. As if racing isn't scary enough to me. Like that would send me over the edge, having to go out on a bike that I've put together. I think it would just fall apart. That would be rough.
Literally, I've come from going from being, everything's done for me, being in the junior talent team where even your dinner's paid for, to then having to buy your own tires and put your bike together and know what gearing you're running, but then you've not got help because you don't know anyone in the BSD paddock, so you don't know what gearing to run, and it was just, you were just lost. Literally, that year was just a kind of a disaster, really.
Yeah, it must have been, I guess, quite humbling for you, I guess. Especially because you came from the junior talent team, which is literally one of the best put together squads in the Junior World Championship. Obviously, you've got other squads like this, like a squad and things like that, who have loads of experience in the World Championship. Whereas the junior talent team is obviously run and funded by Dorna. And yeah, you guys have got loads of techs in there. You got loads of people there. So to go from that to a small team, I think maybe as well, I guess it made you appreciate it a bit more and appreciate maybe what you had, and then motivated you to then get it back again.
That's exactly it. Yeah, literally that is it. But it was the knife edge to think, will I get it back? It's this is it. Now I'm done, because you're in a hole. It's you need to do well and get results to get out of it, but then you can't get out of it because the package that you've got isn't good enough to get you them results. And it was really, really difficult, to be fair. So I was very happy to see the end of the year last year, and there was actually, about a month where I was thinking, I'm just going to stop it and get an apprenticeship, and that's that. I was pretty close, so yeah.
How did you talk yourself out of something like that though? Like, if you'd thought about it that seriously, of like, I'm not going to be able to get myself out of this. I'm going to stop racing. How did you decide to switch it around and keep the focus?
Well, because I thought that was it. In my head, this is what, November. So yeah, about a year ago today.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm done. I didn't even really bother going out looking for rides. Didn't bother asking anyone at the end of the year. It was just sort of, that was that. The bike was still in my garage. So I think worst case is I would have had to have done the same again this year.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really prepared for it, to be honest. I didn't know how I could get sponsors. So I was really thinking about calling it quits. And Danny Webb phoned me and said, Max, did you know Zach Cordraw has left the bench squad? And I was like, no, I thought they were supposed to be taking him to Supersport. And Danny was like, no, he's left. So you're free tonight. No, we went to Mansfield, where Dave lives, Dave Binch. And, we got the deal done that night. Obviously I phoned Nigel prior to it, and he was like, yeah, we'll sell your ZX6, and, we'll put the money towards that into this. So that was the big bit of luck that I've had, really.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's well, because that bench squad's really, like, because I'm friendly with Zach, and like, I knew him last year, kind of thing, and like that bench squad is really well put together. Especially with, like, obviously they've got money coming in from like different sponsors, the Ugly and Co. Sponsorship, for example. They're a big part of the team, as we saw. Obviously, the finale we'll go into with the Carl Cox link as well. But yeah, I don't know. The bench squad, it seems like a really well put together team from outside looking in, and that must have been for you like it must have 180'd like everything you thought about, like literally like overnight.
Literally overnight. It was like, this is it. I'm back, ready for it, again. And to be fair, this year was one of my best years racing. I think the bench squad, they were like they were factory, but it were like family. There was none of this sort of, I don't know. It was just proper. Like racing.
Yeah.
Like you just enjoy it. You're there to race, and that was it. You had a laugh. It were, honestly, all the boys there were just like brilliant, and that's where, it's very bittersweet, to be fair, to be leaving them, because the plan was to go to Supersport next year. But I couldn't believe my luck at the time. A year ago today, and it was just such a great year, because, like you say, they do things properly.
Yeah, like I remember Zach last year. I think he won. Did he win like the last 4 races in a row or something like that? He won like a string of races in a row and like catapulted himself up, I think, 3rd in the championship. Nearly could have won the whole thing. He was just still in contention. And then I believe you got a new engine as well earlier this year. This is all paddock talk, but I believe I heard that you got a new engine this year, which obviously helped you because the engine Zach was on him was a bit old, and then it just that just helped you to really just send it this year. That's what I've heard, so you can obviously tell me if I'm wrong, but
I've not heard that one before. No, I've not heard that.
Oh, funny that Declan likes to throw these things out in the air, just like, I think this happened.
Yeah, but obviously everyone talks crap, and but then you don't really hear them, do you? Like yourself, but no, I didn't get a new engine. I didn't get a special factory Yamaha Prep R6 special bike. That was it. If you look on all the speed traps, I'm not top at all. The only ones I'm top is the ones where, like, it's because of corner exit, or it's like in a braking zone or whatever. But that's quite good, really. I've not heard that one.
I heard it from Zach, so I'm going to leave Zach in the dirt for that one. I heard it from him. That's what
I don't know. Not that I'm aware of. I didn't feel any faster. No.
There you go. So he's probably just justifying himself finishing third last year, maybe. Love you, Zach, if you're listening. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. At the end of the day, like, even when, like, I think I walked past your bike and you still had like cable ties holding some of the fairings together and things like that. It wasn't like it was like a full factory effort, but I think with the right people, the right rider on the bike, and the right team around you, it's just a recipe for success, I think.
Yeah, if you look back, all of the good bikes, that I've been on, good team, then I've always, really exceeded. Like the super teams, that was like the first time I've ever got like a really good bike, like one of the best ones. And same with like when I won the what is now the British Talent Cup in 2017. I was with a team, Wilson Racing, and they were just awesome, the best team to go for, and I've done well. Obviously, rookies and the British Talent Cup, all the bikes are the same. But yeah, and the junior talent team, I was on John McPhee's bike from 2017. So when you're riding that in 2020, obviously the bikes have come quite a long way in 4 seasons. So, didn't go too well.
Yeah, especially when, because you're racing that, for example, then you've got Izan Guevara on like a year-old bike, you've got Artigas on a year-old Leopard, Acosta on a year-old bike as well, and you've got a 3-year-old bike. You are at a disadvantage straight away. Especially, like, even the Roreda, for example, was on like a year-old bike and obviously fell on there as well. And it puts you at a bit of a disadvantage, but the fact that you could still run with them and finish, you finished 13th place overall ahead of, Joel Kelso, who's now in the World Championship. Asman's there, David Munoz is there. Below you, Joshua Watley, so it does show that, you could make the difference there when maybe the bike wasn't there. You could add that extra 30% that it maybe needed.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. And I think going back, the KTMs, they developed the new World Championship bike in CV. So you'll find that the last 3 rounds or so, you know this too, they run the newest bike, the ones that aren't even out yet. So, obviously you can't compete when you're on such an old bike. They're doing it differently. But literally, and it comes past you. Yeah,
because they got like 5Ks extra on the straights, kind of thing. It's like when because what was it? David Alonso last year ran the new bike for the whole season because he was ineligible for the race this year because he was too young. So they just put him on the new bike.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I did not know that. How is this news to me? I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah. A few of them. Yeah, because David Alonso ran the new bike last year because he was obviously going to be too young this year because he was still only 15 at the start of the year.
Yeah, I knew that bit, but
there was a few others. I'm going to get the championship quicker. Holgado ran the new bike for a little bit as well. Kelso still ran like a quite old bike. And all the junior talent team riders had older bikes, but yeah, a lot of the riders just raced the brand new ones, like you said, like the next year's bike. And so when you're up against it on a 3-year-old bike, it makes it almost impossible to win.
Yeah, there was nothing. I think even like the chassis was the new Honda they brought out, it was to keep up with the KTMs. All of the team had one. It was just me who didn't, which were a bit crap, really. When you're like comparing data and stuff with your teammates, and they're on like the newest Honda, and I'm on the old like John McPhee bike, the one that Iogura rode in junior talent team as well. So like it had done some miles, that bike, and they kept me on it. So I was thinking I was riding the wheels off it, to be fair.
Yeah.
How's the conversation go though when there's people on such new bikes and you're on a bike that's however many years old and you're trying to get more out of it? Like, how would you do that?
To be fair, I haven't complained. Like, this is probably the most now I've complained, and you guys have rolled me up. So, because at the time I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything, but now I'm out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, you should have, man. Jeez, like
you can get it all out now if you want. Go on, tell us everything that was wrong.
Tell the world. Yeah, because I mean, the Honda has struggled a lot in the last few years. To be fair, like you look at it, and you're placed 13th overall in that championship, but ahead of you, the 3 Estrella Galicia riders, and then the only other Honda in that top 10 is Jose Julian Garcia on the Honda in 4th place, who was riding for the Stitch squad. And the rest is just KTMs. Oh no, wait, Artigas is second on the Leopard, but Leopard are obviously have their own little special ways of getting speed. But you know, so to finish only the 6th Honda in the championship on a very old bike as well, you should have definitely kicked off.
Oh yeah, I would have been screaming and shouting garages down if that was me. I'd be like, what's going on here? Why am I not on a new bike?
Yeah, and I missed 2 rounds as well, you know, that year, because I broke my pelvis. I don't know if you knew, but I broke my pelvis at Jerez in race 1, and that was the dodgy year where they were running like 5-day weekends. So the rate you had like race 1 was like round 1, and then race 2 and 3 was round 2. So like I missed the whole weekend, which counted for 2 rounds. So, you know, to get 13th was pretty decent.
Yeah, because I remember when they were running 3 rounds. Yeah, because they did, obviously it was the COVID year. Yeah, it was a strange year that year, because obviously I know they all do the practice Thursdays anyway, but I didn't. Does that mean you were like racing or like testing on like a Wednesday? Doing like free practice on a Wednesday?
The race in Portimao was on a Tuesday. Race day. Yeah, weird.
What?
That's not the day I was expecting.
Wait, yeah, no, because I remember this, because I remember working, like being like kind of working from home, obviously, because during the pandemic, working and watching it on TV at the same time and being like, why are they racing on a Tuesday or Wednesday? Yeah, I remember this now. This brings back memories. Jeez. Yeah, it was a weird year that year. So strange.
Yes, it was very strange.
Well, when did you practice? Like, when was free practice and stuff then?
It was a weird one because they done Estoril and Portimao like back to back. Because of the COVID rules.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember it because it was like a 2-week thing where they had a 5-day event in Estoril, which was like normal, and then because I don't know what happened, but they done them like both together, and it were like that's just how it was.
Just a mega 2 weeks of just as much racing as possible.
Yeah, literally.
Why not?
Yeah, because you did 1 round at Estoril, 1 round at Portimao, and then 3 races at Jerez, 3 at Aragon, and 3 at Valencia. It's just like, what the hell? But yeah, to miss all 3 races, because obviously you retired out of race 1 at Jerez, and still come 13th overall, is pretty 13th overall and only 8 points off of 9th. You know, like
really?
Yeah, you're only 8 points off of 9th place.
You're joking.
No, you're literally right. You're 1 point behind Rueda, 2 points behind Fellon, 4 points behind Diogo Moreira, and 8 points behind Masaki, who's 9th.
I didn't know this.
What the?
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah, and yeah, so you're all like pretty bunched up. So yeah, 8 points, and you missed 3 races. You could have easily outscored them, but like the way the world works.
Stayed on.
Yeah.
Yeah, nuts. But like, you look at the riders in there now, and pretty much all of them have gone to the World Championship, apart from Jose Julian Garcia, which is a really weird one. His career went strange, to be honest.
He's
not even racing anymore, really.
I haven't heard of him.
He raced for the Stitch squad. Did a few races replacing Antonelli a few years ago. Nearly raced Qatar last year. Was in Qatar to ride, but I think Suzuki raced anyway. Because it was a visa issue. Like, he's won junior GP Moto 3 races, battled against the Costa and Artigas and Guevara, beat them, and now is not even racing.
Well,
yeah, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, I think, with racing, isn't it? It's it doesn't matter who you are, how good you are. At any point your career, if a team lets you go and no one else hires you, I guess that's a risk you take, isn't it?
Yeah, literally, because when 10-year-old me were thinking that as soon as you get into Red Bull Rookies, that's it. You're a professional. That's it. You're safe. But then I've been through that, and it's not like that at all. Even now, I'm in where I am now, and I think next year it could all be over. It's crazy.
It's scary, and even I don't want to be morbid. I'm not going to go all the way there, but one crash could just end your career. Like Marquez and his humerus, for example.
Even the boat, breaking bones.
Yeah, if you broke your leg bad enough, it must. I genuinely don't know how you guys can do this week in, week out, knowing that your entire livelihood and what pays your bills every month could literally be over tomorrow. How does your brain process that, or do you literally just go, I'm not even going to think about that?
Well, I think I just thought about that then because I felt that question was coming, and then it just doesn't faze me. It don't really faze you. It don't.
I'm not bothered.
I don't know. It's like a mental blockage. It feels like there should be some kind of emotion there, but it's just it's not. It's quite an odd one, to be fair.
To be fair, every rider you speak to though has a similar take on it, and everyone sort of says that they're able just to almost turn off their brain or go into race mode or something like that, and just be able to, right, this is what I need to do right now on track. I can worry about everything else later. But for me, that's so hard to comprehend that you can do that. To me, that's the mind-blowing part.
I think you're just used to it. I don't know. It's just normal. It's the trouble that you've got is I'm in a place where racing is my life. I have no life without racing. So it's what's my point? I do everything. I wake up in the morning for racing. I do something every day towards racing. So it is just my life and most races, really.
Yeah, it becomes obviously, you said, your life and your job, with any career, I guess. With the fact that you go to school, you study to become, say, an accountant or whatever, and then you wake up and you spend years becoming an accountant, kind of thing. But a bit of differences between that and accountant and a racer is accountant can't lose their job tomorrow and never find another job in the same thing, because they could lose their job and then just go work for a different company. Whereas if you, God forbid, obviously couldn't race anymore, what the fuck do you do? Because I remember Anthony West recently, for example, when he got banned by the FIM, I know he said FIA, banned by the FIM for doping, and he couldn't race. He couldn't race in any championship. He tried to race in Brazil, and then this is what he said. This isn't factual. This is just what Anthony West put on social media. So I don't want a lawsuit. But Anthony West said that the FIM then put pressure onto Brazil, Kawasaki Brazil, to stop Anthony West then from racing there. And then he was basically saying that he had no job. He's just raced motorbikes his entire life. He can't get a job because all he knows is racing. And it for me, I'm yeah, that makes sense. And now he's back racing again. But it's for me, it's just crazy to think that you have this one path, and if you deter from that path, you've got nothing. Like you said, you have to do an apprenticeship or stuff like that. But to me, it's mental. I don't know where I'm going with that, but
I just think that's what keeps it exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, it just keeps the adrenaline going, you know. So moving on. So obviously moving to 20. I want to actually go to the end of the year this year actually. Obviously you raced in Super Sport for the last round of the season. Obviously with a Ugly and Co, Carl Cox, and obviously the Binch Racing kind of all collaborated together to put this together. How did that even come about exactly? Like what, and from that, what did you expect to have results wise in the Super Sport class, differentiating from the stock six?
So Dave Binch bought this Super Sport bike back in like July. He bought Sam Monroe's, a Scottish guy who used to race in British Supersport. He's got this bike. He's had it for ages. For the plan to do British Supersport for 23. So when I won the championship, we were always joking about doing a wild card, last round. And then when I won the championship, then it were like, yeah, we can do this now, this wild card. But on that same token, Rory got injured as well that weekend. So there was also a chance to do BSB wildcard. Right?
What
I know. I know. Crazy. So I did that test. Did you see I did that track there on the Superbike?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. That was like partly for Brands Hatch, So
oh my God.
they were all going off. That couple of weeks, it were all going off. And then Dave kept this a secret about the Carl Cox thing. He was like, Max, you've got to do Super Sport sort of thing. And so I wanted to do it. I wanted to do the Super Sport end the year with Binch. Because I know that doing BSB straight away in the heat of the showdown was just massive, too big. I'd had one track day on it. It wouldn't have been raw. So yeah, I think, Nigel understood it too. He was all excited. But he totally understood. And yeah, so he told me, I think it was like a week before, like, Max, we've got Carl Cox Motorsport. We're going to do a special one-off livery, but just don't tell anyone. And that was all sorted out by Ugly and Co, because the owner of Ugly Co, Al, actually is friends with Carl Cox. So that's how that all came about.
Nice.
So then that night I actually went to Mansfield to do stickers to sticker up the fairings.
Nice.
All in the colours.
You're back with hands on again, like.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a great weekend because I to be fair, I wanted a podium. If I set my goal as a podium, I thought I'd be in the top group straight away. But it were a lot different to what I thought it was going to be, to be honest, because it is just like Superbikes, but for 600s, like the equipment the teams have got, the budget. Like I rolled out a pit lane down FP1 and everyone had brand new tires, and I was on scrubs. Like in stock 6, you run scrubs on a Friday, and they're rolling out of FP1 the first stint on brand new tires. I'm like, how do you compete with this? So straight away, you're on the back foot. But then, it was good. Each time we get in faster and faster, and the team hadn't run a Super Sport before, so it was their first time doing data and learning data. So yeah, it was a great learning weekend, that's for sure. But to be fair, the bike felt just like the stock. It had a little bit more poke, but it felt really similar to the stock 600. But so, it was quite impressive, to be fair, that I've gone 2 seconds quicker on what felt just like my stock bike to, on that. So yeah.
Yeah, well, what is the difference between the stock 6 and the Super Sport bike?
So the Super Sport, obviously, all the electronics. You can run a harder compound front tire, which is just preference. You can run Different brake master cylinder, which was also good. And to be fair, you can play about with the engine off the corners. It's got more power. Really, it does have a little bit more, but it's not like it don't blow your head off. It's still very similar. It's the same bike. It's an R6. So yeah, there's not much in it really. I didn't find.
That's all right, yeah, because I did wonder like what the difference was. Because obviously, if you go 2 seconds faster, yeah, you're on similar tires, similar everything. I guess it's more of the electronics and things like that, which is where you can find the extra time, because then you can afford to use maybe a little more throttle coming out the corners, for example, and a bit more this, that, and the other. It's interesting though that they have some electronics in the Super Sport. Then you go to the British Superbike and there's no electronics again.
Yeah,
well,
there
some
is.
Electronic.
There is.
There?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
Obviously, there is electronics to set the bike up and things. It's just there's no electronic aids like traction control and anti-wheelie. That's all it is. So it's the same rules. That's all.
Gotcha.
So you've got engine brake to play with. That's sort of the biggest gain.
Yeah, because you can obviously if you've got a new master cylinder, you can obviously brake heavier as well. And if you've got more engine braking, it'll slow you down even further. And then obviously you did that Superbike test as well, which was an interesting one, because I wondered why you had a suit made up for it as well. If you're just doing a test and you roll out with a brand new FS3 Kawasaki suit on as well, with your name on the arse, it wasn't like it was like Lee Johnson's suit or anything like that. I was like, what is going on here?
Well, that was sort of a curveball, because last year's suit, if you notice, that was actually last year's suit.
Was it?
I feel like I've caught you out.
You have. I didn't even notice. Yeah, I thought it was an FS3 suit. Yeah. Good man. Yeah, I thought it was a brand new suit that they'd made with all the stuff on, and I was like, oh my god, you're gonna do a wild card? You're gonna race them full time, or?
Yeah, a few people actually did comment on Facebook like, you don't just get a set of leathers made just for a track day. So yeah, but it was just year's leathers. But I was also in Almeria on a stock 1000 last week, which I kept quiet. But all the people on the track day, they're all English. They all knew. And it's like, oh, you've got your new leathers on. You're obviously you've got the ride. You're there. This is it.
Yeah. Did you have a new set of leathers on last week? Because it's still the same ones from last year.
No, they were just last year's. Just last
year's.
Just
the same one. Nice.
Goodness, boy, you said leathers for flip's sake.
Flippin' heck. Yeah, we're bringing up RST. Come on.
Anytime today, please.
Yeah, because you're one of the club of riders that uses the Kushitani gloves, aren't you? Are you still running the Kushitani? Yeah.
Yeah, they are. They're really good. They are really, really good. And I think, it proves that, like Senna Aegis, Scott Ogden, they all use them. And they are probably like the best gloves I've ever worn, to this day.
Yeah, so you're in the exclusive Kushitani club.
Yes.
I liked it that you put a post up the other month, like, only cool kids wear the Kushitani gloves.
Yeah. I knew you'd see it, and I was like, I'm gonna post this, because obviously Senna Aegis obviously runs it, Scott Ogden runs it, because Scotty was gonna run Alpine Stars this year, and he was like, he tried them on for a few sessions and was like, nah, I went back to Kushitani. But they're quite hard to get, aren't they? Because you can't actually buy them. You only get them if you've raced in them. Obviously, you raced in them back in the Junior World Championship.
Yeah,
So carry on.
Sorry, no, it was a delay. There was a lag. I didn't mean to butt in.
No, you went. Yeah, because I was just going to say that Billy Van Aert also used them as well. That was all I was going to say.
That was, it works, but we're like the only people who have used them the only people really to have used them, aren't we? Other than the Japanese. So that it's like there's no one else I can think of right now who's used them and not used them again.
Yeah, so there you go. If you want to win the British Stock 600 Championship, wear Kushitani gloves and you'll win the championship. Yeah.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. So going back to that test that you did, obviously on the BSB bike, was that the full BSB bike, or was it like a stock 1000 spec, or was it like a full spec'd out bike?
That was Rory Skinner's bike, but with a black fairing on it.
Ooh, gotcha. Very nice.
Gotcha. What was that like? Because obviously you've just gone from a stock 600 to. Did you race the Super Sport in between that?
No.
Or did you hop? So you hopped off the stock 6 onto a fully spec'd out BSB bike. What was that? What was that like? Was that the first time you ever rode a superbike as well?
So I've done a lot of riding on 1000. I've spent a lot of time on 1000. When I was 15, I rode S1000. You know, for like 4 or 5 days.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember seeing photos of that. Yeah.
My sponsor's really close with Troy Corso in his superbike school. So I used to go on that, you know, all the time. So it was actually, I've ridden 1000s way before I've ridden a 600, you know, which is quite unusual. But I've never ridden a current full-blown superbike. And when I got on it, I thought it was going to take off. Literally.
What the hell?
Literally. It just kept going. And it was down the back straight at Donington, you know, where the Dunlop Bridge used to be, with you know, and that crest. And I just give it the beans down there, and I nearly looped it. It just went right up. It was like, I don't know, I couldn't believe it. But yeah, it was just an animal.
Do you ever think, like, how the hell am I going to race this thing?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The first 2 sessions, yes. But then I just got faster and faster, and because when you go slow, I was right in like the rev range, like the torque pickup rev range. But you know, when you're flat out at the peak power, it doesn't like wheelie so much, and it isn't so much of a pain in the ass. So yeah, the advice was the faster you go, the easier it is.
Okay. That's interesting.
That's wild advice, but to be fair, it makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, I guess if it keeps it down, but it must, like, I don't know, for then now to see what the other guys in the BSB can do, and obviously you've already ridden the bike, what does that make your expectations for next year? Like, do you feel that you'll be able to stick with the guys? Obviously, you're in one of the best teams on the grid, but what are you expecting from yourself next year? Or are there literally no expectations and just you're hoping to learn more than anything else?
So the team have said no expectations at all. Like, it's your first, like, this is your only year in your career where you've been given a full factory superbike and you can just go out and have fun every weekend. So, you know, it's a pretty good position to be in. But obviously I've got my own expectations. You know I can't doss around, and you know I've got to get my head down and get a few good results in there. But I think it's just miles. You know, I think it's such a big jump. I need to get as many laps in as I can and make the bike feel like mine. And I know where the limit is, and I know I can push. And you know, then we'll be on it then. So at the moment, I don't really have an expectation really, and obviously I don't know the class. I don't know how Alton Park's going to feel on a superbike. You know, it's going to be very different.
Especially Alton Park, like, oh my god, like, because Alton Park is like so twisty, it's turny. You know, you come out the last corner, you've got a massive jump, and everyone gets the front end going up over it, and like that is going to be one hell of a culture shock. Going around Alton Park on a full-blown superbike, punching nearly 250 ponies, like.
Yeah, literally. Like, I was on the pit wall at Alton Park. I was stood next to Nigel, and he says, watch them go past and tell me that you're not scared. Right, and he like nudged me, and they all just go vroom, 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 and like they're on the tree roots, and the wheels just launching up in the air, and they're braking, and the whole bike's just moving underneath, and I was like, yeah, I'm not scared. Yeah, I'm not scared.
Yeah, I'm not scared.
Yeah, I'm not scared.
Definitely not. Oh my god, yeah, it just seems so like, because I haven't ridden a bike personally in years, so for me, even the thought of riding a 600 terrifies me. I couldn't even imagine like getting on a 1000 like that and being
riding
like,
a bloody mini motor scares the life out of me. Never mind a 600. I know.
Especially like, obviously because you haven't got the electronic aids as well. Like that is just, I think that's what separates BSB from a lot of championships, where even World Championship, for example, and Scott Redding came back obviously to BSB and loved it because of the lack of electronics. You know, Moto America, they use electronics and things like that. But it must really teach you how to ride a bike.
I think it separates the men from the boys, or whatever they say.
Boys from the men. Yeah.
I can never get these sayings right.
I mean, you said it. I don't know if there's a particular way you have to say it. I just switched it around from the way you said it.
Yeah, but that does sound better than my way. But anyway, I was like, a good example is if you hear them going down Craner. You can hear like the World Superbikes, you know, that you're right over on its side and they just hold it wide open and you can hear all the electronics kicking in. Whereas at BSB, you can hear them playing with the throttle. It's like they're drifting. They're like drifting down the hill.
Yeah, because you see like the rear, like step out, then come back in, step out, come back in as they're like
working it out.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for a whole race distance of that 3 times over next year.
Oh god, you've got to like manage the tires as well. You've got to manage fuel and make sure that's going to be such like, it's one a hell of a year of learning that.
Yeah.
Literally. Like I started like a month ago, Loughborough Uni to, you know, get my ass into shape and, you know, be able to boss a 230 horsepower bike for half an hour.
Yeah, because your fitness level has to be, obviously, a lot of the guys in Stock 6, fitness isn't really as key. Like, it's still very important in Stock 6, but a lot of the riders you see in Stock 6, if you're in the paddock, you just see them like, yeah, like with the shirts off, and you're like, you don't really look like a motorcycle racer, you know, not to be harsh, but they don't. Whereas then, you know, you get to the BSB class, you know, and the fitness has to be fully up there. And I imagine there's a lot of time for you of obviously fixing your cardio and lifting weights and things like that. It must be, do you have like a specific plan in mind for it? Or are you just, have you got like a PT who's just like, yeah, do that?
Do they have a plan for you? You said Loughborough University. Is that, surely that's some sort of full put together program then?
Yeah. And I have a local gym at Storm Ashby. And you know, I'm there all the time, every day. It's actually the same gym where, you know, Eddie O'Shea goes. Okay. You know, as I go out with his sister. So you know, it's all great. And I live up here now, up in the Midlands. So yeah, it's we're always training hard. And obviously, Loughborough is just down the road, so you know, it's very convenient, and you know, it's very good.
Yeah, we had Eddie on a little while ago. He said he lived with you or something. I can't remember what he said.
Yeah, he's probably upstairs.
Oh, okay.
He's playing card. He's on Warzone.
Yeah, probably. Oh, nice. Yeah, man of culture. Yeah, that's what I'll be doing in a few hours, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. The whole racing paddocks are funny. Obviously, you said that like you're dating a sister, or whatever. Like, racing paddocks are all like that. Every rider's dating somebody else's rider's sister.
It's just it's just one family. Like, you might as well all be related at this point, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, it's like that. But I think it's like normal girls don't understand the racing side of things, and it's like you can't. It's difficult to have a normal girlfriend who understands that you're away, and you know, your mindset's different, and you know, you need to have someone there with you who understands the sport and what's going on. And and that's perfect with, like Tilly, who is Eddie's sister, so she knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah, that's it. It's like Joshua Watley and Zonta as well.
Yeah.
His sister, so obviously was Zonta.
Yeah.
And then Daniel Holgado with his own sister. And,
you didn't have to bring that up. There was no need to bring that up.
Every chance
so
I get.
For. I hate bringing that
up. Everyone knows it though. That's the thing. It's
Everyone's just too scared to say it.
Yeah, legit.
Everyone does say it. That's the problem.
They are now. Yeah, I think the paddocks are a bit more scared of it, but
well, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I've run out of things to ask, to be honest.
I've lost the train of thought. I want to ask, so motor racing and all your other pages, all your graphic pages, motor racing gear, which is actually one of my favorite pages,
oh yeah.
Why is that your full-time job?
Nowadays it is, yeah.
Yes, I thought so.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no one has this much time, unless you're going through a crate of Red Bull, and working through the night. No one has got this much time to be able to put this in. So, credit to you, man. Because do you in a position now where it's coming the other way, and you're getting a few pennies from it now, A
little bit, yeah. I get I guess money from brands and things like that in there, yeah. But then I also use my influence to help other people out, like riders with their social media and things like that, and that obviously helps to subsidize my income, I guess. But you see a lot of it these days, especially in the F1 space. There are a lot of people like me who are doing it as their full-time job and going to every race as their full-time job and being paid by teams and things like that. But yeah, I guess I do it a lot because I have no life apparently. But I don't know. I do it again as well out of just passion for it. I guess I'm a bit of a sad ass, really. I'm like, no one wants to listen. None of my friends want to listen to what I have to talk about racing. So I kind of went out to try and find a platform of people who will listen to what riders change gloves for 2022 kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's cool. Because that is what I'm interested in. When you put up Matteo Vitelli switches to Nolan Group, I'm like, no way. And me and Ed, we're like, no way. I didn't see that coming. Didn't see that one coming.
Yeah.
So no, that. How did you get into it then? How did that come about? Your passion for bike racing?
I think it was my parents more than anything. I say my parents, my dad and my stepmom. My stepmom was a massive bike fan. She is adores Valentino Rossi and has done so since Rossi was born or
forever.
And then she got my dad into it, and then my dad got me into it, and then I think I went to the 2011 Silverstone Grand Prix that was raiding. I was hooked before then, but then I was just pretty much hooked after it, and then that was it. Then I just spend every waking minute of my life thinking about motorcycle racing.
No way. So, do you want to ride then? Is that something eventually you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I've been invited to loads of stuff this year. I haven't got a bike license, but I was gonna do it. I got invited by Triumph to do a ride around Silverstone. No, not Silverstone, Donington Park at the BSB this year, and loads of other stuff. But I haven't got a bike license. But then that's on the cards, and then I want to do. I'm tempted to go racing or whatever. Maybe in where is it where they ride the Honda C90s?
The plot, race of the plot.
Yeah.
Do the plot. I can set you up with the guy who's in charge of that if you like. He just lives around here and he's awesome.
Hell yeah.
Yeah?
That'd be sick. Yeah. Because I want to do the plop and other stuff like that. But I'm I haven't got the money. I haven't got the time really, but I would make the time for it. Now I can make the time now that I'm doing it full time. And then I'm I need to get a suit sorted out and all that. And I'm I ain't got any of this stuff. And I need a bike license. I'm a lot to think about. And I'm like, okay, I'll just put it over there and I'll do it at some point, you know?
Yeah, cool. No, that's cool. What about you, Lawrence? So you started your page recently, right? And then where did that come from?
So I'm pretty similar, in fairness. My family have always been into motorbikes. Coming from Northern Ireland, there's just such a history of bike racing. And same thing, my family just sat me in front of the TV on a Sunday and I became such a MotoGP fan. World Superbikes, all sorts. Knowing a lot of people that were racing as well, obviously, growing up, knowing people now that race. And then I was similar. If I want a platform or I want a space where I could talk to people that were similar to me. And initially it was more females in motorsport, but obviously now doing this and being a part of the cycling app as well, I just want to talk to as many people as possible about everything. That's the biggest pun ever. I was just about to say everything motor racing.
Wow, I wonder why I called it that.
I can't believe I just done that. But yeah, I want to try and keep doing this. I love everything motorbike related. Another pun. So yeah, here we are. I'm trying it. Not quite as far along as Declan is. I've still got to go out and earn money in my day job, but hopefully make this the full time job in the future.
Oh,
we'll see anyway.
Yeah, because it's quite weird. I understand bike racing is quite niche. Like, you say to people like, "Yeah, I race bikes," and they're like, "Oh, you do motocross." Like,
yeah,
even if they get that far. So I guess for you guys there's no one in your family who directly races, in the paddock, then it's quite difficult, really.
Yeah, I mean, my dad used to spanner for his friends and stuff growing up. He was always at the Isle of Man and stuff as well. Like, that's what he did, and he never sort of forced it upon us that wanted to race. And see, as kids, none of us had interest in bikes. Like, none of us grew up wanting to ride anything. But on a Sunday, I can always just remember sitting down and watch the bike racing. I think it was just something that, as I grew up, I sort of realised, why did I not ask more about this? Because now I'm really interested, and my dad and I'll sit and talk for hours now about all sorts, because I've sort of realised that, oh my God, actually, no, I do like talking about this stuff. And it's something that I am interested in. So yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So Declan, how? Because you know most things before the media does.
Yeah.
Who's your main guy?
He is the media.
I've got a lot of. I can give you a scoop after. Once it's stopped recording, I can give you a motor racing gear scoop that I'm not allowed to post yet. So. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll give you one of those afterwards. It's a big scoop as well. I only got told it yesterday. But I don't know. I just talk to literally everyone. Like, everyone that I can talk, who will talk to me or will reply or whatever. And people talk to me as well. They'll just come to me and go, "Oh yeah," and I just post everything. And I just talk to people, and people send me photos. Like, people will be I got Pedro Acosta in trouble quite recently. With MT helmet,
with because shark.
He was doing with the shark helmet. Yeah, and he messaged me afterwards and was like, "Mate, can you delete that, please?" He was like, "I'm not meant to be wearing that helmet. I'm signed for MT for next year."
I did not realise that.
Yeah, and he messaged me and he was like, "Oh my God," and I was like, "Yeah, but can you tell me any scoops?" And so he told me some scoops, and then I was like, "Yeah, I'll delete it for you now." But yeah, so Pedro was obviously wearing the wrong helmet and has got in trouble for it. But he said he might join Shark in 2024, so that's interesting. But I just talk to people, and then I'm not afraid to reach out to random people and get information, or I'll get people to come to me, or people I know will know people who will then come back to me. It's weird. I just find everything out, and over the years, when I first started, I'd just post it and get a lot of people in trouble. And people I call fake news a lot of times when I confirmed Renzo to Repsol Honda a week before it was officially confirmed and stuff like that. But nowadays, I kind of only post it when it's official. But yeah, I just kind of speak to everyone, I guess. and people just tell me stuff. And they trust me with information that I'm like, why?
Yeah. So are they like journalists or riders, or are they like both?
Journalists, some riders. I speak to a lot of riders. Then it's people you wouldn't expect. It's people like that work at, say, Alpine Stars, people who work at Day and Easy, people who paint helmets for riders, people who are friends with people who paint helmets for riders. I had a rider's cousin reach out to me and confirm that the rider had signed for this team recently and all that. You know, it's like people you wouldn't really expect come out the woodwork and go, yeah, this has happened, by the way.
That's cool that you've got to that level where people are coming to you and saying, oh yeah. By the way, this is going on. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's weird. It is weird. Yeah, I don't know. People just my blooming messages on Instagram are always forever flooded because people are sending me stuff, and the whole minion thing as well. I'm constantly getting photos of people sending me photos of like minion helmets constantly. Or whenever it's found a minion, they'll send me a photo of it, and I'm like, oh.
Do you like that Sonic one they've brought out?
Sonic one's cool.
Okay.
I like the Sonic one. Yeah,
oh, good.
Sonic one's alright. It's just freaking minions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to I've been a controversial, I think, over the years. Like people don't like me for everything because I'm not really afraid to say what I think either. Like I've never really had a filter on it, and if I believe that something's like not good or I don't like it. Like I remember having an argument with Tony Elias a few years ago because Hector Barbara got sacked for drink driving, and I posted like a photo of Hector Barbara waving, and I put bye Hector, and then put Hector has been sacked from his team for drink driving and all that. And Tony Elias went absolutely nuts at me in the DMs, but I backed it up and was like, look, I'm saying it because he was like, riders get sacked, it's not funny, it's not good. And I'm like, yeah, but he's got sacked for his own his own fault. It's the consequence of his own actions. And Tony eventually conceded with, oh well, I see your heart's in the right place at least, so congratulations on everything you've done so far and all
that. Oh good.
I disagreed with Declan the first time we interacted with each other.
Yeah, first time we ever interacted with each other. It wasn't an argument, but it was definitely a discussion.
Oh yeah, and it was a bit. It turned out to be a complete misunderstanding. Obviously, we didn't know each other then, and I was calling him out. I was like, "What do you think you're talking about?" And then he was like,
I was like, "No." I was like,
what?
"No."
So
yeah, and then I remember you posted it on Twitter as well. You posted the screenshot on Twitter and was like, calling people out.
What was that over then? What was that?
Because it was when Anna Carrasco got signed for the Bow Squad. And I basically posted her entire career results and was like, she's entered 48 races and only scored points in 2 of them. Why the hell have they signed her, kind of thing?
Yeah, literally, yeah.
He'd worded it in such a way, I think. Yeah, it didn't come off well. Do you know what the problem was? I had a few people who agreed with me on that one as well. That got me a bit riled up. So I was like, I'm gonna message him. He's gonna hear about it now. So that that didn't help.
I think my heart was in the place of she doesn't deserve a ride, but like you were saying that, oh, you wouldn't have done it if they were a guy, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's where I was like, no, I'd definitely done it if fucking somebody didn't deserve a ride, got a ride, kind of thing.
We've had that discussion a lot on the podcast though about that exact topic, so we've been able to hash it out over the last few while, so it's fine.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah. Like the amount of people though I've spoken to over the years, become friends with after having an argument with on there is hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I'm here to tell the tale. There you go.
No way. Yeah, so do you have to reply then to all of these messages that you get? Like, do you try to reach out to everybody?
Yeah, so I would say I get about 50 to 100 messages a day on everything motor racing. And I aim to reply to every single one of them, unless I can't reply. But like, I aim to reply to every single one of them. And people are always like, oh, it's such a shock that you've replied. I can't believe you replied. Or they'll be like, oh, you're the only one that does reply, blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, at the end of the day, like, for me, people, like, I don't want to put my face on there, and for various reasons. And I don't want to make it about me. I just want to make it about the content, about MotoGP more than anything else. But people message and they're like, oh, like, you're the only one that replies, you're the only one that does this. And I'm like, I feel like I owe it to these people because they're wanting to find information about racing. And so if I've got the information, I should share it. And then in the same way, I'm like, that everything about racing as a whole has opened so many doors for me in my life. The fact that I was working with like top BSB riders like this year and all that, it would never have happened if I hadn't done everything for motor racing, and the people who then followed it and got it to where it is now, I feel like I kind of owe it to them to reply to every message that I can, unless it's like something like stupid. I'm not going to reply to that.
Yeah, literally. The thing that gets me at the moment is, where you can react to like your story, and it comes up as a notification, doesn't it?
Or a message,
and like
you have to click on it to clear it,
and then you have to scroll down. But like, because they build up so fast, normal messages get caught up within that, and then I just don't bother. Like, the inbox is crazy. To be fair, like, it just gets backed up.
Yeah, unless you've got like people in your primary, and then you get so many, and then it stops notifying you about the bottom ones.
Yep.
And you're like,
literally.
I can't see this anymore.
Yeah, literally. I'm terrible. The only thing I'm good on is like WhatsApp, and that's it. Or you just got to ring me. Like, I'm really bad.
Happens, doesn't it? Especially when you're a famous British Superbike rider like Max Kirk.
It all comes with the fame. Wait till you get to MotoGP. What are you going to do then?
Yeah, could you imagine? I'll be like Ed Sheeran. I just won't have a phone. Like that.
Yeah.
Just have someone follow you around with your phone behind you, replying to all your messages, and you just have
hire a PR manager, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can hire me and I'll respond to all your messages for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Of course.
Very welcome.
I know, I'm free next year.
Sure.
You can always call one of us.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Have you got any more questions for us then?
No, I'm pretty keen to find out who's this big news. So.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, end the podcast now. I
end the podcast now, and okay. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast, Max. It's much appreciated. It's been a long time coming. Obviously, I think I've been speaking to you probably the entire time I've done everything about racing. It's like 7 to 8 years now, isn't it?
Yeah. I've been an OG follower, I think.
Yeah, you are, innit? You and your mate Xavi Artigas are like OGs, like.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, me and Xavi. Yeah.
Xavi was the first ever rider to follow me.
Was he? Oh, legend. Yeah. I like Xavi. He's my favourite.
Yeah, he's great, isn't he? He's great. Yeah, so thank you for coming on the pod. It is much appreciated. Don't worry about the audio things that having to go today, because no one will ever know who's listening to this back. So
great, thank you. Yeah, we had no issues.
There's no issues.
I'm in a real nice studio with no issues.
We're all in a studio together right now, right? There's like lights and cameras. It's a whole big production right now.
Whole big shebang.
Yeah.
And there's definitely not like Eddie O'Shea potentially screaming at his TV upstairs or anything like that.
Yeah, literally, controller through the wall.
No, but I hope you've enjoyed listening to this podcast. It's our first guest on for a little while, and we'll be aiming to get a few more. We've already had a few lined up, and we've got a very big guest potentially lined up soon as well. So keep your eye out for that one, and we'll be back again next week. So thank you very much for listening.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.